We've had a lot of feedback coming from the brides-to-be and grooms-to-be that they want to deep dive into this topic. I have these two amazing guests today, and we are going to talk about videography, photography, in depth. In terms of the customer nature or behavior, what is the change that you're seeing?
People exactly like guide us, and I'm like, dude, are we the experts or are you the expert?
Let's deep dive into the editing process. But this whole same day edit, reels
Reels is something that personally I don't like, but as a brand we do it, we embrace it.
To be a good same-day editor, you got to believe in God first. You're literally rushing to the venue, hoping that the export that you just pressed happens. If that export doesn't happen, right, all your entire life, your hopes comes down crashing.
They used to tell us that, you know, when guests are entering,
Ask them
questions, kaisa lag raha hai? And I was like, Filmfare pe thodi aaya hai.
Welcome to the Wedding Podcast and to the Insider series. Today we are going to talk about videography and photography once again, but in depth. We've had a lot of feedback coming from the brides-to-be and grooms-to-be that they want to deep dive into this topic. And for that, today we have two very, very amazing guests who've done great work in the wedding space. Both run different successful companies, but they are friends, they exchange notes, they talk to each other, and that's another beauty of our industry where we all are one big community. Let me introduce you to my guest. My first guest is Megha Bhatia. For the people who probably know her as Megha Israni, she's now Mrs. Megha Bhatia, married to Yash Bhatia. Amazing couple, I love them both. And Megha has been in our industry, I would say, for more than now a decade. I mean, she's a very, very young girl who started very early, one of those young, successful entrepreneurs, and actually started working in childhood, I must say. She was a child artist, started as an actor, worked in a lot of prominent movies, including Dil To Pagal Hai, which is our favorite. And she has been a model, worked in more than 250 ads. So from in front of the camera to behind the cameras is a journey which Megha has done extremely successfully, and she's unstoppable yet. So that's our first guest, Megha Bhatia. And the charmer of our industry. We've all seen that movie, Three Idiots, and Farhan Qureshi, you remember that character who did engineering, reached almost that final year, and then decided that his love is photography. I mean, that's the kind of story, from doing his engineering to being a stock broker to coming into photography and being so successful in this art. He was known as one of the top 100 photographers in 2019 at the
Fearless Awards.
Also, he has done some of the real prominent weddings in the country, be it Sonam Kapoor, be it Akash Ambani, and Rana Daggubati, and there's a lot more. So I have these two amazing guests today, and we are going to talk about videography, photography, in depth to all of you guys. So welcome on the Wedding Podcast, guys.
Bonjour.
Very, very excited.
You know, you both have been in the industry now more than a decade, no? I mean,
12 years?
12 years for you, and Anand, for you, it's
12, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, same
done.
one. 12 years counting.
That's quite a coincidence, but amazing.
Yeah.
And so you've seen the industry change. A decade is good enough to see, and plus we faced the pandemic in between also. How have you seen this industry change? All the guests who come here, they tell us the change for good, that the industry is growing. We all know that.
Right.
But in terms of the customer nature or behavior, what is the change that you're seeing on that front?
So honestly, Aarti, like you said that yes, the industry has evolved, technology has grown quite a bit, and we're only getting better from where we were, even like say the last year as well. What has changed, I think, is the entire expectation of a bride and groom. There was a time my meetings used to be a lot held with, say, the Dadaji of the house, or the father and the mother were the decision makers. Today it's the bride and groom who take the shots. I think the expectation with social media, I think I would give a lot of the credit to social media, because it changed the way, right from we used to do like a 8-10 minute, I started my journey doing like an 8-9 minute short film. Today, short films can also be a minute, right?
Yeah, they want to do a lot of
they do
reels
want to do a
in.
lot of reels. So I think that entire transition of doing a long format to, coming to doing also vertical format right now. So I think that's kind of changed. People's expectations have become a lot higher. I think today the bride in her head already knows what she wants. She exactly knows what her dream wedding should look like. She instructs the groom that, hey, you gotta cry when you see me walk down.
Oh my God.
So if you see 10 years back, it was a lot more not discussed, not spoken about, not like these things used to not happen at weddings, right? But it was just a lot more simpler. Expectations were a lot more lower. People actually enjoyed their days and were not the bridezillas or were not the most paranoid people. Right now, I think with so much knowledge and with so much technology, I think people exactly like guide us. And I'm like, dude, are we the experts or are you the expert? Like a bride will say, can we use this song, and this song is not going. And in our head, like I'm sure we all juggle saying that, dude, come on the edit table and sit with us,
Yeah.
like they have so many ideas, which is also great because it has also kept pushing us.
Yeah.
So I think in a way it's great, and there are times
It
when
has both sides.
It has both sides of the coin, and of course I would say ever since Instagram took up, I think our businesses also flourished because we just became brands that people wanted to work with. I think our exposure to a larger audience, our exposure to traveling a lot more increased because people from Dubai called us, people from Turkey called us. Back in times, we used to just sit in one small pocket and do, weddings. Say, I was very known for Andheri to Bandra weddings was like my domain, So I think that exposure to travel across has only grown thanks to Instagram, thanks to the fact that
The
they
reach
can,
is-
yeah, the reach. Today we've done weddings in the US, which if you asked me, like, when I started off, we didn't, right?
Yeah.
So I think Instagram and with social media and with people knowing has only been good, but yeah, there are some downfalls to it, which you just deal with it. Yeah.
Anand, what's your take?
Interesting story, and this sort of plugs into where I started my journey, or rather
Yeah.
why I started my
Yeah.
journey. Everything that Megha said has resulted into this very interesting phenomena that I've seen manifest, and I would use the word manifest very knowingly over a decade. Indian weddings are probably the biggest
Yeah.
per capita spend that globally, right? Compared to even our purchasing power, the spend is humongous.
Yeah.
When I got married 13 years ago, 12 years ago I became a photographer, 13 years ago I got married. So the difference was less. And the reason is when I got married, I saw that our budgets are huge, but the spend on photography is not proportional compared to global standards. And I had just come back from States, and I just couldn't add the two and two together. Why is photography taking a back seat in a wedding that's even 10 years ago or 13 years ago was costing 7 digits, right?
Yeah.
So some basic number crunching pointed me to the fact that back then we were spending about 0.5% of the entire budget on the wedding. So 1 crore ka shadi mein, you're spending close to 50,000.
Yeah.
And you would have known those rates, right?
Yeah.
Traditional guy comes in 50 grand, he's very happy.
Yeah.
The wedding is worth 1 crore, right?
Yeah.
He's a rounding error in the whole equation.
Yeah.
The global average that time stood at 7.5-8%. Still is in US. Now we have seen this average of India move from 0.5. Today I think we stand somewhere around that 4-ish
Yeah,
percent,
3-4%,
right?
3-4%,
Right?
yeah.
For a 5 crore wedding, you would end up booking a 20 lakh photographer,
Yeah.
right? It's an 8x jump. All the factors that Megha said have led up to that, and that's been the biggest change for me. And that also, I hope, transcends into the the mature stage of our industry, I hope we head for the 7 or the 8%. So that's been the
That's such an interesting take. I never thought of it, but of course, your mind works like that also, no, Anand, in terms
the
of
number boy,
the
right?
number
He's the number
boy,
boy, yeah.
Sorry,
you know.
blame it to the engineer, but that was the business opportunity I saw. That
Yes.
was the whole. That basically was my pitch to my dad.
I think it's also a great pitch to any client to explain to them that, you know, listen, come on, in all the spend that you're doing, I mean, this is something that stays with you all your
Forever,
life.
right, yeah.
I mean, pictures are what speaks your entire journey, and you can be particular and you can be very anal about your how you want to look and how you want to
What you
make
want to
sure,
wear.
yeah, but at the same time you got to spend the right kind of money for this. Coming to what we were talking a while ago, where you mentioned about the influence of social media and the fact that the brides today want short reels, they want same day edits. I have a very different take on this. Of course, I am little old school. I feel there's always joy to see that longish video, sit and enjoy with your family. But this whole same day edit, reels, instant uploads, gratification, you know, all of it. What's your take on it? And two is, on site at a wedding, how do you manage this? Like today, it's changed your whole way of working, you know, how do you manage that?
So, you know, Aarti, when I, like you said, I also came in from a very traditional background. When I started off, I used to do those long videos 12 years back. And I think something that really worked for the brand was we very early on took on the entire same day edit, because we used to make clients wait for about 2 months, 2.5 months. In season time, it used to also go to 3 months. And I realized that there was a lot of anguish. There was not a lot of, like, you start the entire process on a very high note. You've loved what they loved, the first thing that comes to the house. But by the time they're at their 3rd month, we saw a lot of discomfort with families where they used to call us, follow up with us and say, kab aa raha hai photos, kab aa raha hai? And I think that entire change, I think when we did our first same day edit wedding was, I think, in 2014 and 15.
Oh, that
very, very early on. Yeah, very, very early on, where we used to go for a wedding where we say, like, it was my first Goa wedding for a very, very close friend of ours. And we did a 3-minute and a 5-minute short film for her at the reception.
Which you all showed,
which we showed. And that was our first gratification. And Aarti, from there, the applause is something which yet gives me a high. The kind of comments that come out from a bride, groom, and they instantly seeing what they've just experienced in the afternoon or just 3 days back. We used to get the MC to say, hey, let's relive what's happened in the last 3 days. That feeling of yet seeing 300 people's eyes glued on that big LED screen, even in 2014 and 15 to right now, it's yet the highest joy. Like, there's nothing that adrenaline rush of, you know, sitting in the room, getting the edit on the table. At times we've never done checks. We barely make it to a check as well, right? Because you know the reception is going to start at, say, 9, 10 in the night. So I think that joy is phenomenal. I think the way it also changed because the world started to see our work.
Sure.
Until then, it was a family of 8 and 10 which saw our work. Suddenly your exposure is to 300 people, and suddenly from those 300 people, you knew your next 2 clients are coming from there. So that became an instant gratification. Clients carried that back home, wanted to upload it on YouTube back then, saying, how do we share that with our friends and family who've not been able to make it to the wedding. So I think I love that joy. It puts the entire team under pressure, and I think creative minds perform a little better under pressure. I think I belong to that category where you put pressure on me and I think I give a better result as well.
Oh, that's so amazing.
So I love that fact of how it changed the dynamics. I love my, now, as much as I don't like vertical content, because I just feel as a photographer, we've always thought of landscapes, backdrops, and, you know, like you want to show what's happening on the left and right of the screen. So I've never enjoyed vertical content, but again, I think in 2020 when it came on, I was very happy with the change. I took it up. I know my page reached from a very low number to a very high number because Instagram was just pushing out reels in 2020 while everybody was sitting at home. So that also changed the game for us, where visibility became like we were just visible on Instagram. So I have embraced changes very, very well within, as much as there are things which I don't personally like reels is something that personally I don't like, but as a brand we do it, we embrace it and we love it because we know our clients love it. We've had a bride who tells us that, my walk needs to be like this, the groom's one expression needs to be there, his tear needs to roll down, and that's how the Varmala, like we literally get direct roll.
Should put a GoPro on that. Bride.
We literally get like how a bride would envision, and then I have a bride who says, hey, how can this reel go viral?
Really?
Yeah, I think I talk about it quite a bit, that I've had brides who came to me post 2020, said, listen, how does my wedding go viral? I want to be uploaded here, there. How does the reel reach
if
1
it reaches
million?
the wedding podcast, tell them this.
That's so true.
Yeah. So I think that to me, I was like, dude, are you getting married for the gram or are you really getting married? Like, are you for real, right? Like, that was my first
reaction.
Yeah,
But
my
then
first
you-
reaction
but
was.
then you- yeah,
but
now
then
you've embraced
I know people
it.
have made professions out of this getting viral. Like, I know 2 of our brides who made a profession out of just now being bridal stylist and being a blogger, So I think it's just opened new avenues. People have started to reach out to them saying, hey, who did your makeup? Who did your pictures? Where did you
Amazing.
get your clothes from? I know a bride who's made a career, and a fantastic and a very successful career just out of being a viral bride. And today we laugh about it because there was to be like, Megha, can you stop uploading? Like, everyone's calling me and my in-laws are saying, what is this? The wedding is all out there. I said, you asked for it, you got it, and now embrace it, right? And she's made a fantastic career. So also, there's also a positive side to it. It's just not about being visible, but if you can convert that into a great profession, why not?
That day won't be far, I feel, when the photo video teams will have a marketing team attached to every wedding saying, okay, we're going to, in our proposal, other than the shoot, we're going to manage this.
We've had so
You know,
many,
the
I'm
There is
social
already
media.
there's already a Sautan out there.
Yeah, there's
Do you know about
already-
these people who now roam
Yeah,
around
who
with that
roam
phone
around.
gimbal thingy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we in our team
And
we
now
have
there's a fight.
Oh, y'all have?
Yeah, we already
no,
have.
we don't have them, but
We don't have them.
Yeah, so maybe
my
y'all
team
will-
calls them
y'all will-
Sautan.
Then your team calls them Sautan.
Yeah, because they're exactly. I mean, they're trying to do their job, fair
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
But it's my take every time any bride asks me or any whoever asks me about these instant deliveries is, look, it's like a mini skirt, right? It's got to be short enough to pique curiosity, but it's got to be long enough to cover important points, right? So just have that balance, right? It's
Yeah.
okay to have 1 or 2, but don't go overboard
True.
because you're compromising. And
Yeah, because when you see the final product, like, I just feel you don't enjoy it because you've seen so many
So
short
much of it,
format
yeah.
that when the real film comes out, then you're like, yaar,
You're
maza
not
nahi aaya.
excited,
Yeah,
yeah.
maza nahi aaya. Arey, kahan se maza aayega? You've already seen bloody 10 reels of your video and you've seen all the highlights which have come out in that. So of course it's not going to make you, like, it's not going to give you goosebumps. So
yeah.
there needs to be a way where you kind of balance that out and say, okay, 1 or 2 reels work for an entire wedding. But now, yeah, like he said, Sautan, there are companies flourishing. There was a time when we started, our fights used to be with a traditional guy on floor, because when I started my journey, I used to fight with a father saying ki, sir, 3 घंटे 4 घंटे की video कौन देखने वाला
Yeah.
है? We give you a 45-minute and a 1-hour movie, and which is like a theatrical style, and it's really interesting. He used to say, नहीं आप अपना करो because my daughter wants you, but हम तो अपना traditional लेके आएंगे.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about 8 years back, our fight was with a traditional uncle. Now our fight again on floor in the last 1.5 year, I think these guys have just come in the last 1.5 year, is with these 2 people
maybe
sitting
we
on
are the Sautans for everyone.
Yeah,
could
for
be the
them,
other
you
way.
might be the
Yeah,
Sautan.
it could
Yeah.
be the other way. But listen, we do timeless stuff. So I
Yeah.
think, like, eventually, like, the classic is always going to be a classic. Like, you can't replace the timeless and the classic stuff with virality, because
That's true.
like I always tell a client, are you going to sit in your house and watch a vertical video on a screen that you spent 60 inches ki aapke ghar mein screen hai, and how are you going to watch your content? You'll eventually want to watch a 4K
Yeah.
version of it on your 60 inches or your 80 inches,
Absolutely.
like the clients that we work with.
So we have a litmus test, and we ask this to every bride and groom that has a question about what's your style of movie making, and our counter question to them is, what is it that you and your husband will watch a year after over a bucket of popcorn without pulling each other's hair? That should be our style of movie making.
Yeah.
Right? Something that you can watch over and over
True
again.
again. Right.
Right? And making these films, it takes time.
Yeah.
Right? It's and you can't shrink time, right? Like 9 women can't make a baby in 1 month. Right? So,
I love the analogies
like,
that Anand
God.
comes up with. Yeah.
so it's one of those, right?
Yeah.
9 reels will not make a trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got to strike the balance. We're
True.
not against them. We understand sometimes, especially post-COVID, people realize
Yeah.
that you can get away without inviting the ones that you don't want and send them the reel.
Yeah.
Saying, this happened.
Just follow.
Yeah.
Yes, I love you, but
Yeah.
didn't have enough space, But you get the drill, right?
Yeah,
It's something as a form of declaration that, hey, this is it. Festivities have come to a conclusion, but I think it should be to that, right?
I
Namak
agree.
swad
No,
anusar.
you're right. Namak
Namak
swad
swad anusar. Nice.
Anand, also if you can just tell our audience this whole editing process, like while you're saying,
Yeah.
it takes a while.
Yeah.
So let's deep dive into the editing process,
Right.
I mean, the same day edits, how it happens, and
Yeah.
this long format, how it happens and why does it take time?
See, to be a good same-day editor,
Yeah.
you got to believe in God first. Otherwise, it can't happen. It is a miracle that an edit is coming together.
Yeah.
By the time the fairas have ended, right?
Yeah.
I have a legit footage of mine, which is now, iPhone has that feature which converts a video into a GIF. It's become that. Picking up on one of the points that Megha said, you're literally rushing to the venue, hoping that the export that you just pressed happens. If that export doesn't happen, right, all your entire life, your hopes comes down crashing. So there's a footage of me holding my laptop with the hard disk attached to it, and the laptop's always obviously open, and I'm walking to the venue, but I have to walk slowly because if I run, the hard disk might fall, right? And this editor of mine, he took that piece, he recorded that piece, and he edited it with Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, Jaya Bachchan walking with the
Thali in her hand.
thali in her hand. So it's just literally that I'm praying for a miracle to happen. And the video edit, essentially, right? There's this objective part of it, which is to come back and, I need to do this, I need to do that, cut, and my job will be done. But then there is a subjective part to it, which is that whole litmus test that we spoke about. And the edit actually begins with your first meeting with the couple. It doesn't begin in your studio.
It begins way before you've shot.
Way before you've shot, way before you've picked up your camera, your edit has already started, because somewhere you have attuned the couple to who you are. Somewhere you've
Understood what they
want, right?
What their personalities are.
What their personality is. So it's not my portfolio being shot.
Yeah.
We are very clear about this. We were obsessed with shooting portfolios in, I'm sure, early stages of our career. You just want to, show off that you're this great photographer. But with time comes the understanding that it's someone's lifelong memories.
Yeah.
So that understanding needs to be then translated into real work, which means you got to understand that someone to begin with. The rest of it, your guess is as good as mine, right? You throw it into the software, do your business, etc., etc.
Interestingly, you said you incorporate the personalities of the couple into this. Often I've seen, like I had this one wedding that I was handling, and the bride and the groom wanted something. They loved the edit that was done by the photo video team. It was a brilliant edit, It was one of those edits that touches your heart. It was a same day edit because they were partying, they enjoyed, they had those moments captured really well, the friends were there. And then after that, when that edit came on the group, the internal family group, then the mother-in-law and both sides mother-in-laws like, oh, Dadiji's pictures not come, Chachi's pictures not come.
Sarla
We
Bua.
need
You're
to,
forgetting Sarla
yeah,
Bua.
Sarla Bua's pictures not come. So, we got to cover all of this. No, beta, acha nahi lagta hai. We have to do
put
this. Now, I felt it just ruined it for the couple because they wanted it a certain way. But ye sab karte, it
end
became
product,
the end
yes.
product. So, how do you tackle a situation like that where you are very happy with the edit you feel, the couple is very happy, but of course the family is not happy. Now, how do you make sure one is in this whole story of capturing personalities? Do you get that answers from the family well in advance and you plan it that way, or over a period of time you realize, no, you got to do this as you go?
You got to identify the key stakeholders.
Yeah.
We literally call them stakeholders.
Yeah.
And it's very important in our team. It's a mandate.
Yeah.
The shoot director cannot show up at the shoot if he hasn't had a conversation with the stakeholders. The classic mistake is assuming that the bride and groom are the only stakeholders. Right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes, the person who's writing the check also would like to believe he's the stakeholder. Fair, right?
Yeah.
So, and then that's what happens, right? Because for some parents, it's not just their child's wedding, it's a celebration of a lifetime for them. It's a milestone for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? How can you exclude their wish list?
Absolutely.
And if I want a certain version for myself / the bride and the groom, there could be a difference between my version that I would want for to represent my company's work versus what the bride and groom want.
Yeah.
There's always the scope to do a director's cut.
Yeah.
Just politely go up
Yeah.
to them, ask them, listen, we loved shooting your wedding. I hope you're happy with what we did. We just wanted a little version for ourselves to put it out on our portfolio. Can we take the liberty of doing
Yeah.
that? And we've done that for 90% of the work that's out there on our social media is a director's cut.
So I think you just got to understand them, put out what they want, and then there have been so many times, like he said, we do a product for them, they've loved it, and then you're like, dude, we can't be putting that up. Like, you know, there are some crazy amount of people. I've had clients in the full film, beta wo ek khane ka layout to dal hi dena. And I was like, bro, who shows food?
Yeah.
But he says, itni mehnat ki hai, humne isko hire kiya tha.
We want to show
Foreign se chef aaya tha. Recently at Geo we did a wedding and there was a whole team of Firangs doing, you know, some fancy tables. Client was imperative that, you know, for my daughter's wedding I've got a, you know, chef from here. So that made it to our, you know, video, the longer video. So we now do 2 and 3 minute videos for ourselves, which is like a director's cut, or which is like, you know, everything that creatively you would want to show. Give them the 6 to 7 minute short film which they want, and then do the long format. So you kind of just do an extra product for them and they're very happy. And then we tell them, listen, this is our creative version. Your product is also on its way.
Amazing.
So yeah.
Now we'll talk about the wedding planners because you all work closely with the wedding planners, and I'm a wedding planner, and I know there is a prerequisite of how you should work with all the other, not only the photo video team, but all the other associates who are a part of that project. But there are also times where I know that there is misunderstanding, or, you know, there is not, you know, a process that they follow clearly. So we'd like you all to talk about what are those things that as planners they should ask a photo video team, take into account, make sure that, you know, eventually on that day as a team, how do you work seamlessly? I want a take from both of y'all.
So
I'm going to get a funny take from Anand.
So I have a very nice story to narrate on this, and it's a story that has taught me what am I supposed to ask a wedding planner before I go in on a wedding. So I was doing a wedding for everybody who knows that Gutka weddings are the largest weddings, and I was working with a Delhi planner.
Okay, just for our international audience, when we say Gutka weddings, these are a few Indian terms we are using. Basically, there's this big, huge industry, or I would say like a marketplace where they do these, what's it called? After mint?
Chewing tobacco.
After mint. After mint, no, Aarti.
South Bombay answer.
Chewy tobacco, and that's one big industry. And usually people from that industry are very, very affluent and rich, and like to spend a lot on their weddings. So that's what Megha's referring to.
So it was my first wedding,
Gutka wedding.
newbie in the very, very new to this larger than life weddings. It was my Kanpur wedding, first Kanpur wedding ever. I go for an event and I'm asking the planner who had hired us, saying ki first event, a cocktail night. I said, sir, show flow kya hai? What are we supposed to do? He says, jo bhi artist pehle tayar hoga, hum usko stage pe dal denge. And I died. And who are these artists? Zareen Khan, Neha Kakkar, and the works of the industry, and Aditi Rao Hedri was performing in those days. And I was like, what are we supposed to capture? Sir, bridegroom ki entry kaise hogi? देख लेंगे ना, जब वो लोग enter करेंगे, phone कर लेंगे. And
What year was this, Megha?
This is 2014-15, very early on. And I was like, sir, but कुछ तो, you know, कोई dancers है, क्या है? Because dancers have always been a part of grand entries, big fat Indian weddings. He said, हाँ देख लेंगे. And no brief, no nothing. 3 days we're working like headless chickens.
Oh my God.
Headless chickens at a wedding where there was no show flow. So, answering your question, without a show flow, we don't enter a wedding right now. So it's very imperative for a photographer to ask show flow, layouts, please give us your mood board, please give us your themes so that we can be appropriately dressed and not dressed in odd colors and come across. Please tell us your your technicals, how your lights are going to be
Even you all
placed.
have a requirement.
Yeah, we also send in our requirement, which is the kind of lights that we want. We need a console table.
Sir,
we
tech
need
writer, please.
Yeah, tech rider and a
Tech
hospitality rider.
and
No,
then
we haven't reached
we
there.
haven't reached there.
Yeah,
Aarti.
yeah.
We are-
You're
I
three-star,
think post this podcast we might reach. We
I'm
might
upgrading
reach.
to 4-star
We
after the
might just
podcast.
reach a 5-star and a business class ticket. That's the
Stop it,
aspiration,
guys.
right?
Yeah. Last couple of years, I've noticed this trend, right? And to whoever started that trend, I love you from the bottom of my heart. I've seen these Excel sheets now, which the planners sent us. There's a 15-minute saying, couple portraits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It never used to happen.
Never used to
right?
happen. There was
Somebody somewhere, maybe it was you, somebody somewhere started.
Family photo time has to be put on.
Right, and here's how photographers are wired as people, right? We are very emotionally driven, right? We're almost.
I think most of our industry to say like that.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say, right? As planners, you maybe have a thicker skin. You deal with far.
They just become thick-skinned.
You
I
deal
don't
with a
say
variety
really.
show, right? But
Yeah.
our number of acts in our show are less. But what happens is when you sort of have that bad start to the day or bad start to the event, right? It sometimes can result into that downward spiral.
Yes.
It's a team, by the way, right? You could be a Virat Kohli facing on Australia, you're sure. But what about the Mohammad Siraj in your team, right?
Yeah.
Poor chap, he thinks, he's gonna get blown out of the water. You got to keep his morale up. What keeps his morale up is when things happen the way he's at least, in the ballpark.
And they are creative people also.
Yeah, they are, right? So having that right start to things sort of ensures that we can deal with the usual variability in a wedding. But having to start with variability, for example, the couple is running 2 hours late. So it feels like a samosa ka dukan, right? Where if you show up at the end, you won't get hot samosa. So makeup artist got their time, right? The family got their time. Everything, photos, wo to chalte le lenge, right? I'm like, hold on, right? This is not a samosa ka dukan. This is your portrait session. Give it the time that it wants, and that's the start to the evening. To come back to the point that your only business is innovation. If sound bites were a hit 5 years ago, and you're still doing them now, stop calling it "that's my style."
Yeah.
It's you're just falling into that comfort zone. You're killing yourself as an artist. Forget making the client happy.
Yeah.
You can make the client happy, by the way, with very little.
Yeah.
After a point of time, you realize what are the basics to be done. But can you...
You have to up your own game.
Exactly.
It's about you also and your company also.
Also, when you look at a movie, right, it should evoke an emotion in you where either you're happy or you feel the tears or you feel the smiles, right?
Yeah.
Like, because even if for us, it gets very monotonous on a daily course of life, watching people getting married. But you only can make it this much different with the kind of emotions, with the plugins that you've done, with using a different text, as simple, like a text can change the way an entire movie looks. An entire song can change the way you would have perceived it and the way someone else perceives it. So I think if you don't innovate at that very little foundation levels, your work looks monotonous to you and you yourself will not enjoy working anymore.
That's one of the reasons where, at least I as a planner, I choose to do limited work. Because I think, it's a business call for each individual. But in my space, it's very difficult to scale.
Yeah.
But in your space, processes can allow you to scale. But yeah, it is imperative for every brand, every company to take a step back and say, let's relook how we can make that incremental improvement in the way we work or in the way we present ourselves or the way we do our client servicing. It's amazing. So, Megha, tell me, when you all work with so much of talent and when you do so much work on a scale, how do you train your people? When do you really make the time and how do you define your processes?
So something that I love about the wedding industry, it is a seasonal business, right? Our crazy season start only in November, goes on till about March, April is the timeline. I think June, July, August, September really gives us the time
utilize that time
to stop, think and recreate the same products. Like right now we're re-editing some films just differently by different editors, just to see that, okay, X gets this, Y gets this, and a Z gets this, on the table. So I think we loved these months to just stop, pause, and kind of recreate even our decks, right? Like as simple, the way we present ourselves, the way the website looks, the way, we function at a touch point of how the clients have experienced us, what has been our testimonial rate, what has been, small touch points of where did we lack last year and where can we improve that one pointer. There's always, every year you'll see, Aarti, that has to be 2 improvements, 3 improvements made. Like 2 years back, we used to never shoot on 4K while a lot of them got onto 4K. It was only last 1.5, 2 years that we moved on to 4K. And that took a lot of toll on us on the back end, on the kind of machines. We had to upgrade our machines. So we upgraded ourselves with either technology, either with basic skill sets. But I think these 3 months really give you enough and more time to not run in the race that we are perpetually in and create stronger SOPs. I think somewhere that I'm operating out of 2 different offices, thanks to COVID, where in that timeline I really sat to break down how when someone enters the organization to how when we deliver the product. I have that on paper. And that paper has become the mantra to anybody who comes in, goes out. People come, people go, so what? Who's next has become the mantra.
I think a lot of organized segments have always worked like that. But
I think here we had to learn the hard way, right? We didn't have, like, if
also
you ask
there's too much customization in our space.
Yeah, like also customization, and also, Aarti, we don't belong to any MBA schools. There's no one who taught us this. We all come in from, I think,
no, he does. He's overly
educated. But I'm talking about myself. I'm a BCom grad, comes from a Sindhi Lala business of functionality. So
but
when I come,
so well, Megha, for
but
yourself.
I'm saying the
and by the way, for my audience to know, Megha is also an author who's written a beautiful book on weddings called
The Jitters Behind the Glitters.
The Jitters Behind the Glitters, and I read it half, Megha, I have to yet finish it.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful, beautiful book. Everybody should get their hands on that.
Thank you.
Coming to technology, we have the
Master of Technology.
Who changed the game largely in the industry, not only for himself and for other people. And this is a very important example for the wedding industry, that sometimes those innovations or those things that you do not just benefit your own organization, but it benefits your entire industry. And I think that's what a path-breaking move that Anand made was the app. And I'm sure there was something like that before, or you probably bought it too. Can you just tell us the story of the and you were on Shark Tank also.
I can talk about it as a testimony that I think we experimented with algomage at my wedding personally.
Oh, lovely.
That was.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I would.
He was so busy dancing.
He was so
we were
busy.
just, yeah.
No, I'm just saying we experimented as a very early on in 2021 when we used that app for my wedding. It was, I think, a pilot stage where it had not even gone out to the world. And I was one of those few brides who was privileged to use it. And where as an experience, and I keep telling this, not enjoy the wedding. Like, just be present. Like, even I have friends who will go out for a party, all they want to do is click pictures. Guys, live in the moment.
I have been in almost every episode talking about this.
Live in the moment, breathe it, feel it, touch it, instead of just wanting to capture it, right?
So true.
And because every post of yours is getting some likes, everything is getting a certain, craze for you. I had boards put out at my wedding saying no usage of phones.
Nice.
You will have your pictures coming to you in the next 24 hours. By the time you wake up, just scan the QR code. Because I wanted people not to remove their phones and stand while we were entering, because I see it at every other wedding and I laugh about it. So yeah, thanks to his app where I just plugged in Algomage saying that,
it's called Algomage.
Yeah, it just changed the game for the world to receive pictures. I don't think families anyways receive the pictures well in time and however they had to. But I think for the world and for your guests to experience the wedding, I think Algomage changed that. And one of the only first ones. I will not say one of the first ones, only first ones.
Now, please tell us this story. How you thought of it, how it started. And then we want you to give us a demo for this also.
You want the real story? Necessity was the mother of invention. So this was at a wedding back in 2018, largest wedding, where we got a request from the family saying, we'd like everyone's pictures delivered to them. And the kind of family you don't want to say a no to.
So,
okay, fair. It was
I
Akash
think
and
it was
Shloka.
Akash Ambani's wedding,
Yeah,
right?
Akash and Shloka's wedding. And this obviously is a request we've heard before, right? You've heard this in different formats. I figured I could do it manually, right? Because everybody was sort of a known face there, so you could just start making folders. And within like the first 5 hours, I realized it's impossible. You're dealing with close to 40,000 edited images. It was just insane quantity. But had it even been lesser, it would have been still a complicated problem to solve. So I let that slide, and about 6 months later, I get the call again, and this time I knew that they mean it, right? They really do. So I got down and coded a dirty prototype, which used face recognition and matching to get the job done. And essentially, for the first time, I would say 80-90% of the guests received every single image of theirs without nobody having to do any extra work. But the aha moment was that we got inquiries because of that, because every image that went out had a little watermark on it.
Oh, yes.
Right. So I could have shouted on the top of my lungs for marketing, and I wouldn't have gotten that mileage, and here it was coming my way. That sort of prompted me to start using it as an internal reels and frames thing.
Yeah.
So for 1 year, we didn't even let it out. We just kept using it for all our weddings and kept,
No wonder he did all the weddings.
In that year.
All through, bro.
Riding the wave, right?
Yeah.
And eventually people started asking, okay, how did you do it?
Yeah.
This, that. And that's where the idea for productization came. And then to sort of add another layer, the problem that Megha mentioned very early on in the episode was, even if you are getting your pictures, you don't want them after 2 months.
Yeah.
Or the marginal utility diminishes after 2 months. So then how do we make it ASAP? And I resisted the temptation of that ASAP thing, because as you said, sometimes it may be too much too soon.
Yeah.
But we are competing with an iPhone
Yeah.
15 Pro Max now, right? That thing takes amazing pictures and delivers them instantly. So I don't want to be the guy who's known as, oh, you guys take forever, right? I want to be seen for the work. An artist needs an audience. So then we started solving for the first half of the problem, which was infinitely more tricky than I thought, which is, can artificial intelligence edit like real humans do. And if you think about it, the very premise of artificial intelligence is learning from your style of speaking, of editing,
or doing whatever that your
whatever
style
you
is.
do that you're trying to replicate, and then
Make it
making a
faster.
model, and that model does it super fast because it's powered by heavy machinery.
Yeah.
And we've had so much of data, right?
Yeah.
I've done this for 10 years. I have data of how I edited image from point A to point B over millions of images. So we made the thing. Now you just feed in the data, and what typically would take 3 months to do now is down to 3 days.
Oh,
give and take.
wow.
Yeah.
And what's the reach of this app today? How many users, I mean, B2B, how many users within the industry?
So that, unfortunately, I cannot publicly discuss that
Yeah,
stat.
but I mean, is it growing by the day?
It is. We are...
It is growing by the minute.
Yeah.
Aarti, while you speak, your 5 people must be signing up on the app.
I mean, see, my... as an entrepreneur, of course, I'd like it to grow as fast as it can, but there's of course the whole that's more sales and marketing side
Yes.
of things, right? Sometimes great product will still take some time to build.
Yeah.
I feel we built a good product. But as an artist, what I'm really happy is that finally AI can help us bridge so many gaps, make the experience so much better.
Yeah.
And this was one of those things which, if someone else had done it, I would have been equally happy for me as an artist. It's just that I was there, maybe the timing, maybe the background, whatever worked out. But
So modest you are.
The engineering
Please,
worked out,
yeah.
the highly educated
Take some
Anand
credit that
worked
you
out.
really did this, Anand.
Dad, I really went to the engineering college now, hence proved.
So from a user perspective, there are two angles to this. There is this user, which is the clients through the QR code that they can get their images immediately. That's part one of this app. And then there's a B2B angle you're saying,
Yeah.
which is your editing side.
Yeah, so the B2B angle, exactly, it's the editing and the delivery side, if you want
Yeah.
to break it down into
Yeah.
two. It's
So I think we should definitely do a demo of this.
happy to. So what you get is a link which makes you land up at a web page like so. You got to feed in details like your name, and this could be any guest at any event that we're talking about. You got to fill in your phone number, so I'm going to do that, and click on Find My Image. Once I do that, it will open up a camera module and it will ask me to align my face to confirm I'm a real human, and I press Capture. Now what it's doing is finding me amongst thousands or hundreds of thousands of images that could have been at that event. So to give you some sense, and here's me, right? Of course, I'm a photographer here, but I could have been a guest as well, right? And this thing can pick me out from pretty much anywhere, right? And that's how we sort of change the way we deliver images.
So incredible, yeah. I mean, fingertips pe you get all your pictures, and this is brilliant. I mean, I know some of us have been using this regularly and giving it out to all our clients after every wedding. But for all the rest who aren't, get your hands on this. This is really amazing.
It's a game changer. For
Yeah,
the
it
industry,
is.
so
It
kudos
is
to
for
you guys.
sure.
Thank you.
Congratulations on this one, Anand. You've really made us proud.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys, I want to ask you all one thing. It's very important that, and I want both of you all to answer this, is that if a client had to choose a photo video team without referring to their social media page, what would your recommendation or your advice to them be of how to choose your team for photo video? I mean, how should they evaluate this?
So I'll take this up with saying that Instagram can also be a fad and can also faff a lot, because when we do a wedding, we don't talk about those first 5 or those first 10 images that we kind of upload on our page, right? It's an entire album that one has to really live with and look through. So I think my most imperative thing when I talk to a bride and groom or I talk to a family, I think it's the relationship and the vibe check and the comfort that you are kind of going to have with the photographer, because we're your only vendors
Yeah.
who are going to carry forward for the next 3 months as well, right? Every other person that you meet at a wedding, that day the wedding gets over, you say, okay, tata, bye-bye. Where the people who are actually going to live
Yeah,
with you
be after the wedding
for the
is
next
done.
3 to 6 months on an average, if there are changes, you're doing albums, you know, whatsoever.
And you all are the closest proximity to them even at the wedding.
And we also
You're in
dive
their
a lot,
rooms and
we
you're-
also dive a lot into their personal equations, because when we do weddings which have Aarti come out through a lot of trivias, like in terms of like a lot of fights have happened,
Yeah.
and then they've made it there. A lot of times families haven't agreed to this wedding, so there's a lot of emotion involved. For us, we've done intercaste weddings, we've done runaway brides and grooms, we've done where the mother-in-law hates the daughter-in-law wala equation, but yet the wedding is happening, right? We are actually a part of those stories.
Yeah.
So how comfortable are they sharing the insights of their relationship? Because a wedding movie,
Sometimes they don't even need to share it, but
it just
Yeah,
comes
just,
through, right?
yeah,
It just
they
comes
need to
through.
feel that
Yeah, they got to
comfort.
feel through that emotional connect, that okay, they can and will be an extension to our version of what our love story is, or what our big fat 3-day wedding looked like. So I think comfort to me is utmost priority, even above technical side of it. Like
Yeah.
you could be technically not the best in the country, but if you associate to the story, if you associate to the bridegroom, you understand their cultures as well, because you do a wedding where there's a white wedding happening, you got to understand how they walk down, you got to understand how a Maira takes place, or how a Telban
Sajan
takes
Goat.
place. You know, small rituals. So if you don't get that drill of how important today a Sajan Goat could be to a family who's feeding the boy side, you got to be emotionally just there.
Yeah.
Even though creatively you may not be aligned to that, but emotionally you got to be there for your bridegroom, father, mother, siblings. I think these are the 8-10 core people that we really love serving to and love working for.
yeah.
You know, choosing your photographer is like an arranged marriage. Right? But you can't make it a 1940s wala arranged marriage.
Yeah.
मेरे पिताजी कहते हैं तुम अच्छे हो. Just because your papa chose me, you know, it happens,
Yeah.
right? And can't be a 1970s villain meeting the girl for the arranged marriage, right? Hey, tum kitna leti ho? That also happens, right?
You know,
How
you-
much do you charge? Like, first thing.
Alternate career is acting.
So these are the arranged marriage situations I try to sort of circumvent. I like my 1990s boy meets girl, and they have a nice solid conversation, right? If you hit it off, that's
Yeah.
that's the milestone to cross. And everything that Megha said, right? What are the vibe checks at that point? That's how you choose your photographer.
What one should charge for the experience that they bring on the table is not always measurable. It's not something where you can always justify through a conversation. That is something you got to understand. And very few clients get that. So give me your take on that front. How do you, give us your trade secret, how do you manage that? How do you convince? Is it only your charm or you?
You know, I also say the value of time, right, that I put into a product. Am I really, a cousin of mine, a kid cousin of mine asked me, so what's your per hourly value when you do this business?
I'm so sorry.
And Aarti, that was quite like a guy.
Oh,
That didn't-
yeah.
that didn't come
Yeah,
out.
That
right?
didn't,
And-
yeah,
and I
that
was
didn't
like-
sound good to begin with.
And it didn't sound, and I didn't have an answer to it, right? And that's where I think also at one point Israni Photography wanted to be a factory and wanted to churn, you know, and do a lot of work. And then when I looked back, and then when we look at P&L,
Y'all did change your stance.
we did change, and we said, you know, this is not what we want to be. And I think that only happened when you start to value yourself and say, hey, I'm bringing in now, when I talk to a bride, you can't compare me to a 2-year-old brand, to a 12-year-old brand. You know, there is a lot more expertise, there's a lot more experience that we give you, right?
Yeah.
Like right from the time we onboard you to we offload, and we kind of say a goodbye to each other with making sure that you're a happy bride and groom going out. Like that's the end vision for both of us, right? Like when they walk out of the doors, they just got to feel that, hey, the experience was great. Technically, we may all use more or less the same cameras, right? Today we all are on 4K, we all are using Sonys, Canons, Fujis, you know, these are the brands that are there. So there's only so much with the experience which could be different, and how you feel through those experiences, how you feel that there's someone really involved in your wedding?
No, I totally hear you, Megha, but I need that one answer for the audience.
You don't need to give that answer, right? If
No,
someone asks
in terms of your number game, like,
Yeah.
what is your explanation typically?
when
Of
you
course,
when
this
you
is
use the
something
word-
we talk.
Sabyasachi
Yeah.
charges 12 lakhs for one lehenga. Does the lehenga really cost 12 lakhs?
See,
While you sit to make it? No,
Yeah.
right? But there is he's just made it an aspiration,
Yeah.
right? So if today, when you compare us, right, to say an X has quoted 20, you're quoting 25, what's the difference? Experience and the time that I'm putting on the project, right? And today I may just want to make that because
And
I'm
you
doing
probably are
lesser
hiring
work.
the best in the industry also.
And also I want to do that one limited project
Yeah.
for you. So I'm not doing 10 other projects if that project, and also it's a seasonal business. So a client is saying, but itna thodi lagta hai, ek photographer camera to aapki 4-5 lakh mein aa jati hai. Like, even today a client is putting the math across for us saying yaar editing kaun sa bada baat hai.
Yeah.
Arey sir, aap equipment dekho, you look at the kind of infrastructure.
Team, salaries.
And plus, we don't have freelancers, right? If today we were freelancing model of a business where you give your edits outside, where you give your photographers when the business comes in, we take the brunt of running the brand for years, even in off season. We don't shell out people saying, hey, that, okay, you know what,
Yeah.
June, July, August, there's no business, tata, bye-bye, and come back in
Yeah,
November. It
yeah.
doesn't work like that.
True.
So you're running your P&L for a whole year. So when you are also at a little premium price, you're charging for the entire year because you only work 5 months on an average.
True.
So your price points would be very different to what he wants to take home.
We earlier on one of the episodes with one of the planners we were discussing is that how respect is very important. I mean, at the end of the day, this whole industry, people do not realize that there is certain boundaries. I mean, you got to not speak to your planners, your vendors, your industry people with just one transactional mode to try and bring them down on the cost. That's not the only way to do it. I mean, understand a little more. I'm sure we've all negotiated when we feel that, okay, you know what, genuinely there feels a need to work on the numbers or work backwards and make this happen for them. Sometimes you come across a beautiful couple who's funding their own wedding and you might want to just do it for them. Anand, has it ever happened to you?
Oh, so many times.
Yeah.
I've actually put out a public post, did that 2 times. Unfortunately, the timing of the weddings didn't work out, where we wanted to shoot someone who's come out of some, difficulties trying to make their wedding happen, right? Because I feel that we over-romanticize weddings also, right? There is that human element. And some couples, they can't afford their wedding because both the side of the parents said, we're not going to do that. And we said, well, we'll pick up the tab.
Yeah.
So your photo videos on us, we'll do the travel. Tribal weddings, right? So beautiful. India is so...
wow.
Right? We've come like millimeters close to doing it, but couldn't. But there is ample heart shown by our industry in general.
Yes.
Not photographers, planners included. I've seen you stay back extra in Udaipur cold, right? Let the clients take this boat, let my team take this boat, I'll bear the cold, I'll stand there. So that shows enough heart. So my funda then has since changed that, I'm the guy who's, I know X might be the value that you're prepped and I'm at 2X. My aim will be to give you value worth 3X if you pay me 2X.
Correct.
That's my USP.
Yeah.
I know I'm priced at a certain price point.
Yeah.
It's a
But
given.
in the words of Coco Chanel, right? Luxury is a necessity when all necessities are met.
That's true.
So yeah, I mean, you can afford me. I know you can afford me and I'll over-deliver.
We've had a great conversation with Anand and Megha. I think this Insider series has given a lot of food for thought for clients also on how to approach video photo teams and the rest of the industry when they are starting their journey of wedding planning. And so with this, we call it a wrap. We've had a very, very interesting session. Thank you guys, because I think we've had some real conversations, real talk, candid conversations. That's the whole purpose of this podcast, and I'm so glad that you all have spoken so honestly about what you feel, what are the areas where one could do things differently. So thank you very, very much for being on our show and contributing.
Thank you so much, Aarti. We've had a blast.
We've had a blast.
Yeah, we've had a blast.
We're done with another episode of the Insider series. Hope you've liked it. Please do give us your thumbs up. Make sure to share it, comment what you'd like to hear next, and do not forget to subscribe to the Wedding Podcast. And do press the bell icon.